Inside the Grand Council chamber, the deep, thunderous voice of Speaker Ethan Blackwell resonated through the vast, crystalline space. Hundreds of alien delegates, gathered from every corner of the galaxy, fell into an uneasy silence. Their various appendages, tentacles, limbs, and other biologically unique features settled into what could only be described as the closest equivalent to an attentive posture for each species. High above, in the chamber's magnificent golden dome, holographic screens displayed countless star systems, with Earth pulsing in a bright red glow. Council Speaker Ethan Blackwell, a striking figure adorned with iridescent scales and 2 sets of forearms, dramatically gestured toward the glowing display. My esteemed colleagues, we are now confronted with an unprecedented crisis. The humans have outdone themselves once more. A collective groan spread through the chamber, with murmurs of disbelief rippling through the representatives. Ambassador Zara Varin, a gelatinous entity with dozens of ice-blue tendrils, gurgled with indignation. What have those persistent primates invented now? They've unlocked the principles of quantum tunneling, Blackwell announced with a somber tone, causing several representatives to emit varying tones of distress. And they've done it just 3 cycles after we deliberately misled them with false data about particle physics. Meanwhile, deep within the secure walls of the United Earth Defense Command headquarters, Admiral James Dalton watched the proceedings with barely contained amusement. The aliens were confident their council sessions were private, but humanity had cracked their encryption years ago. His steely gray eyes crinkled in a knowing smile as he took a sip of his coffee, a comforting habit from his time in the Navy. "Sir," Lieutenant Olivia Harlow spoke up from her station, "they're about to vote on the containment measures." "Let them," Dalton replied, his voice oozing calm confidence as though he were holding the winning hand in a poker game. "Have you noticed, Harlow? They still haven't figured out that we can hear everything they say?" In the council chamber, Ambassador Zara Varin of the Zelthar rose to speak. Her crystalline form shimmered under the chamber lights. "We must act swiftly," she urged. "The humans have far exceeded our predictions in weapons development, space exploration," she shuddered, visibly disturbed. "And in their entertainment programming. Their reality shows are spreading like a contagion across the galaxy." "Don't remind me," groaned Representative Jackson Reynolds from the Gravara. "My third spawn won't stop watching something called The Real Housewives of New Jersey. He's even started demanding wine and speaking in something called vocal fry." Council Speaker Ethan Blackwell raised all 4 of his arms, signaling for silence. "The containment proposal is simple. We enact a complete blockade of the Sol system. No trade, no communication, no cultural exchange. We'll tell them it's a quarantine due to a mysterious space-time anomaly." Inside his command center, Admiral Dalton couldn't help but chuckle aloud. "They seriously think we'll buy the mysterious space-time anomaly excuse? Harlow, make a note. That's going straight into this year's top alien excuses." "Already logged, sir," Harlow replied with a grin. "Right after the solar winds are too dangerous excuse, and your system is being relocated for routine galaxy maintenance." The council vote passed nearly unanimously, with only 1 representative abstaining, due to an unfortunate accident of falling asleep during the proceedings. The rhythmic snores echoed through the chamber, producing small sonic booms that rattled the walls. "The blockade begins immediately," Blackwell announced with authority. "We've positioned our most advanced ships around the human solar system. They won't be able to—" He halted mid-sentence as an aide whispered something in his ear. "What do you mean they're waving at our ships?" Admiral Dalton leaned forward slightly, watching the first wave of alien ships move into position around Earth's orbital paths. The sleek, sophisticated vessels looked impressive. Had they been designed 5 years ago? He calmly pressed a button on his console. "This is Admiral Dalton to all Earth defense stations. Continue with normal operations. Let them think they've got us trapped." Lieutenant Harlow's console flickered with incoming reports. "Sir, the aliens are deploying their quantum barrier network. They believe it will prevent us from accessing their faster-than-light corridors." "Cute," Dalton muttered under his breath, taking another sip of his coffee. "The funny thing, Harlow, we cracked quantum tunneling decades ago. We've just been asking them questions about it, watching them give all the wrong answers. Like that time they tried to tell us that quantum entanglement required organic cheese as a catalyst. Harlow chuckled softly. Exactly. Dalton nodded, standing up to stretch. He walked to the massive window that offered a breathtaking view of Earth's glittering night side, where millions of lights sparkled defiantly against any threat of an alien blockade. You know what this whole situation reminds me of? What's that, sir? That time in college when my roommate thought he had locked me out of our dorm room, but I had the key the entire time. I spent 3 hours outside, pretending to be stuck, just to see what he'd do. As Dalton's reflection smiled in the reinforced glass, he mused, sometimes the fun isn't in showing your hand. It's in watching others play their cards while completely oblivious. Above Earth, the alien blockade locked into position. Their ships formed an imposing barrier that would have been truly effective, if only they knew the actual level of humanity's technology. As the Council congratulated themselves for their swift and decisive action, none of them noticed the tiny anomaly in their communication network, a subtle glitch that allowed every single word of their proceedings to be transmitted straight to Earth's defense headquarters. Admiral Dalton leaned back in his chair, pulled up a classified file labeled Protocol Fine. I'll do it myself, and began typing away. The real show was just beginning, and if there was one thing humans enjoyed more than proving aliens wrong, it was doing so with a little flair. Harlow! Dalton called out. Send a message to our friends up there. Keep it short and sweet. Something like, the weather's lovely down here. Anyone up for a game of tennis? As Harlow transmitted the message, Dalton couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, he thought, the galaxy's biggest problem wasn't that they underestimated humanity. It was that they never seemed to stop doing it. At a neutral meeting location, which happened to be an abandoned Chuck E. Cheese restaurant in suburban Nebraska, Speaker Ethan Blackwell's voice droned on from across the table. You understand, of course, that these measures are for your own protection. Dalton glanced at him, unimpressed. Blackwell had all 4 of his arms crossed, an attempt at authority that only made him look like a pretzel covered in scales. Our protection? Dalton repeated flatly, his fingers drumming rhythmically on the table. Around them, ancient animatronic characters twitched sporadically, locked in an endless, broken dance routine triggered by a mysterious space-time anomaly that seemed to only affect human ships. Ambassador Aiden Carter's eye stalks bobbed up and down in what might have been agreement. Precisely, Blackwell continued. We're so glad you understand. Now, as for your planet's resource consumption, let me guess, Dalton interrupted, leaning back in the plastic chair clearly designed for someone half his size. You're concerned about our coffee exports, or maybe it's the fact that we've been sending too many cat videos across the galactic network. This is no joking matter, Admiral. Blackwell's scales shifted to a deep purplish hue, clearly showing his indignation. Your species has been consuming resources at an alarming rate. Take your latest quantum experiments, for example. Dalton raised an eyebrow. The ones where you tried to tell us we needed maple syrup to stabilize quantum fields? Yes. Blackwell shifted uncomfortably. Our calculations show that you're rapidly approaching dangerous levels of syrup consumption. Back at Earth Defense Command, Lieutenant Harlow's voice crackled through Dalton's secure earpiece. Sir, they're starting to restrict supply ships to the outer colonies. Jupiter Station reports that their weekly delivery of pizza ingredients has been intercepted. Dalton pinched the bridge of his nose. Council Speaker, you've cut off supplies to my people's pizzas. Do you have any idea what you're doing? It's a necessary precaution, Ambassador Zara Varen interjected, her crystalline form catching the flickering light from the arcade. We've seen what happens when humans have unlimited access to cheese and pepperoni, the entertainment content alone. You mean our cooking shows? Dalton interjected, a little too smugly. They're addictive, Ambassador Zara Varen practically screamed. My entire species has become obsessed with something called Guy Fieri, and now they can't stop trying to visit this mythical place called Flavortown. The meeting devolved further when Ambassador Aiden Carter accidentally triggered the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics, sending them into a terrifying rendition of Happy Birthday, the haunting melody echoing through the room, which would surely invade Dalton's dreams for weeks to come. As the aliens scrambled to avoid being attacked by malfunctioning robots, Dalton received another update from Harlow. Sir, they're expanding the blockade. Mineral shipments to Mars have been halted. The mining colony is… Well, sir, they're pretty angry. Something about missing Taco Tuesday. Dalton stood up, his patience finally running thin. Speaker Blackwell, a word in private. The two stepped outside into the bright Nebraska sunshine, leaving behind the chaos of malfunctioning animatronics and panicked aliens. A tumbleweed rolled by, perfectly punctuating the moment. "This has gone far enough," Dalton said, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "You're not just restricting our resources, you're messing with our food, our culture, our way of life." Blackwell had the decency to look somewhat uncomfortable, his forearms fidgeting nervously. "Admiral, you must understand, your species is just too unpredictable, too innovative, too human." "Exactly," Dalton replied, his voice sharp. "Just last week, one of your scientists asked us if black holes could be used as garbage disposals. Do you have any idea how terrifying that question is?" Dalton smiled. But it wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile that made Blackwell's scales shift to a pale shade of apprehension. "You know what's interesting, Speaker?" Dalton continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper that somehow carried more weight than a shout. "You all think you're containing us, restricting us, protecting the galaxy from our chaotic influence. But here's what you've never understood about humans." He stepped closer, his voice steady and calm, yet carrying an undeniable edge. "We don't need your approved trade routes. We don't need your sanctioned technology, and we sure as hell don't need your permission to explore the stars. We've been playing along because it was more fun that way." Blackwell's scales now cycled through colors faster than a disco ball. "What are you saying?" Dalton's wrist computer beeped. He glanced down and grinned. "Oh, would you look at that? The Mars colony just found a new way to make tacos. Turns out Martian dust makes excellent seasoning. Amazing what humans can do when you tell them they can't have something, isn't it?" Blackwell's voice grew more frantic. "This is precisely why we had to act. You take every restriction, every limitation, every sensible regulation, and you turn it into… innovation," Dalton suggested helpfully. "Speaking of which, you might want to check on your blockade ships, the ones near Saturn's rings. I hear they're picking up some interesting signals." As if on cue, Blackwell's communication device erupted with urgent messages. His eyes widened as he read them. "This is impossible. Your people are somehow bypassing the quantum barriers." "Oh, those things?" Dalton chuckled. "Yeah, we figured those out ages ago, turned them into a nice little power source for our coffee machines. Really gives the espresso an extra kick." Blackwell stared at him in horror. "You mean all this time?" "All this time," Dalton confirmed, nodding. "We've been playing along, being good, cooperative members of the galactic community. But now," he gestured to the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics, where the other alien representatives were still scrambling to escape the rogue machines. "Now you've gone and restricted our pizza supplies, and if there's one thing you should never do, it's get between humans and their food." "This is a diplomatic crisis," Blackwell sputtered. "No," Dalton corrected, beginning to walk away. "This is what happens when you push humans into a corner. We don't break down. We don't give up. We just look at the situation and say…" He paused dramatically, turning back one last time, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "Fine." As if on cue, the Chuck E. Cheese sign decided that was the perfect moment to detach from its mount, plummeting toward the table and nearly crushing Ambassador Aiden Carter's eye stalks. In the distance, thunder rumbled ominously across the Nebraska plains, signaling that the breaking point had not only been reached, but obliterated, along with any remaining illusion the Galactic Council had of being able to control humanity's destiny. As Dalton walked toward his waiting transport, he muttered to himself, "And now, the real fun begins." The emergency broadcast interrupted every screen, radio, and neural interface across Earth and its colonies. Admiral Dalton stood confidently in front of the United Earth Defense Command logo, his expression one of someone about to deliver the galaxy's most satisfying, "I told you so." "My fellow humans," he began, pausing just long enough to take a nonchalant sip from his coffee mug. "Remember all those conspiracy theories about underground bunkers and secret alien tech? Well, Turns out Bob from accounting was right all along. Who would have thought? Across the Sol system, humans paused mid-action, setting down their drinks, leaning forward in curious anticipation. In the Galactic Council chamber, dozens of alien species collectively felt their digestive systems drop, as if sensing the weight of what was about to unfold. For the past 50 years, Dalton continued, we've been playing a game. Every time our alien friends helped us with technology, we smiled, nodded, and quietly filed away their hilariously misguided information under things that make us go, Meanwhile, we've been busy. Very, very busy. Lieutenant Harlow, standing off-camera, displayed a tablet showing the alien representatives' horrified reactions. One of them seemed to have physically turned inside out in shock, a reaction that was apparently a thing for some species. Remember that quantum tunneling they thought we just discovered? Dalton smirked. We mastered that back when people still thought cryptocurrency was a good idea. A wide grin stretched across his face. Those FTL corridors they blocked us from? We've been using them to speed up our pizza deliveries. Massive hangar doors, previously disguised as storm systems on Mars, creaked open. Mountains shifted, revealing hidden launch facilities. Even Mercury, long dismissed as an annoying, scorching rock, began to transform as secret installations powered up. But my absolute favorite, Dalton leaned in closer, was when they tried to explain gravity manipulation by comparing it to juggling Jell-O. We smiled and nodded while secretly using that tech to build zero-gravity water parks. Best vacation spots in the galaxy, by the way. 5 stars on Space Yelp. The broadcast cut to a sequence of reveals that made the alien blockade crews seriously reconsider their career choices. Gigantic Earthships emerged from beneath the oceans, their designs so advanced that alien tech looked like antique calculators by comparison. Space stations, once hiding in plain sight, dropped their camouflage, unveiling facilities that could make even the most ambitious sci-fi authors shout, "Okay, now that's excessive." Dalton's tone shifted slightly, becoming more solemn. We could have revealed all of this at any time, but honestly, we were having too much fun. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to keep a straight face when someone tries to convince you that FTL travel involves yodeling? We even started taking bets on what ridiculous explanation they'd come up with next. In the council chamber, Speaker Blackwell was desperately covering his face with all 4 of his arms, peeking through his fingers. "Please, tell me they didn't figure out the dimensional folding tech," he whispered, his voice tinged with dread. As if on cue, Dalton added with a mischievous glint in his eye, "Oh, and that dimensional folding tech you've been hiding? We use it to store our leftovers. Helps with fridge space." Humanity's hidden fleet continued to emerge from various corners of the solar system. Ships of every imaginable size, shape, and technology that humans had not only mastered, but improved upon. The alien blockade that once seemed like an impenetrable wall now looked more like a collection of vintage spacecraft at a convention. And yes, Dalton continued, those ships near Saturn's rings? Ours. We've been using them to harvest ice for the galaxy's largest slushy machines, because if humanity's going to master space travel, you can bet we're going to have fun with it. The broadcast showed humans going about their daily routines as though nothing extraordinary had happened. Their reactions were strangely nonchalant, as if this kind of revelation happened every day. Most were only mildly irritated that they had to stop what they were doing to watch this announcement. "So here's the deal," Dalton said, placing his now empty coffee mug on the table. "You can keep your blockade in place if you want. It's cute, really. We've been using it as target practice for our training simulations. But if you want to have a real conversation about galactic cooperation, one without your condescending attempts to restrict human innovation, we're all ears." He leaned forward, his expression now bearing the weight of humanity's collective accomplishments. Because let's face it, if we can figure out how to make pizza delivery work through quantum tunnels, just imagine what we could do together if you'd stop trying to put us in a corner. The broadcast cut to its final, jaw-dropping moment, a human child happily jumping rope with what appeared to be highly classified alien technology, while in the background, someone had transformed a planetary defense shield into an impromptu light show for a neighborhood block party. The silence that followed was deafening. Humanity went back to their daily routines as if nothing had happened. The galaxy, on the other hand, struggled to process the realization that the species they had tried so hard to contain had been humoring them the entire time. Somewhere, deep in the Andromeda galaxy, an alien researcher stared at their notes on human behavior and simply wrote, "Well then." In the Galactic Council chamber, chaos reigned. Representatives from countless worlds were shouting, panicking, and in some cases, metabolizing themselves in sheer terror. Ambassador Aiden Carter's eye stalks were now so twisted they seemed to be tied in knots, while Speaker Blackwell's scales had taken on a deep existential crisis green. "Order! Order!" Blackwell cried, his voice cracking in desperation. "Surely this isn't happening! We can handle this situation with dignity," Speaker Blackwell began, though his voice was less confident than usual. At that very moment, a holographic projection of Admiral Dalton appeared in the center of the chamber. Casually lounging in what appeared to be a beach chair, he took a sip from a coconut adorned with a little umbrella. "Hope I'm not interrupting anything important," Dalton said with a grin. "Just thought you might want to know. Your blockade ships? Yeah, we kind of rearranged them a bit." The chamber's main display flickered on, revealing the alien fleet had indeed been reshuffled into a smiley face formation around Saturn. When did you—" Blackwell stammered, his voice cracking in disbelief. "Oh, about 20 minutes ago," Dalton replied with a casual shrug. "We were going to make it a peace sign, but Jenkins from the Strategic Art Department thought that might be a bit too on the nose." He adjusted his sunglasses for emphasis. "Speaking of noses, you might want to check the position of your flagship. It's currently serving as the left nostril." Ambassador Zara Varen's crystalline form quivered with indignation. "This is outrageous! We demand—" "Funny thing about demands," Dalton interrupted, his tone light and dismissive. "They work better when you're not the one whose ships have been turned into cosmic emoji art. By the way, has anyone noticed what happened to your quantum barrier network?" Every alien in the chamber rushed to check their data screens. The quantum barrier network, their most advanced defense system, had been inexplicably repurposed. Somehow, humans had converted it into the galaxy's largest streaming service, currently broadcasting Keeping Up with the Kardashians to every corner of known space. "The cultural contamination!" screamed Representative Reynolds. "My fourth spawn just asked for something called a reality TV show deal." Dalton's hologram grinned. "Yeah, sorry about that. We had to do something with all that excess quantum energy. Don't worry, though. We made sure to include all 24 seasons. You're welcome." In the background of Dalton's transmission, Lieutenant Harlow could be seen coordinating what appeared to be a massive fleet movement. However, instead of military precision, the ships were executing a choreographed dance routine to stay alive. "You see," Dalton continued, finishing off his coconut drink, "while you were all busy trying to contain us, we were building something else, something you never expected." "A weapon?" Blackwell asked nervously. No, a party playlist." Dalton's grin widened. "But also the most advanced civilization right under your noses. Remember those primitive fusion drives you saw us testing? Decoys. We were actually testing zero-point energy drives, but we disguised them to look like explosions. Humans are surprisingly good at making advanced tech look like accidents." The chamber's screen filled with images of humanity's true technological achievements, each one more impressive than the last. Bases inside gas giants, cities hidden beneath the ice of Europa, a Dyson sphere under construction, disguised as a particularly ambitious art installation. "Remember last month when we asked for help understanding basic terraforming?" Dalton chuckled. "We were already terraforming Mars. We just wanted to see what kind of adorably wrong advice you'd give us. My personal favorite was the suggestion to use space dolphins. Still not sure if you were serious about that one." Ambassador Aiden Carter's eye stalks had finally untangled themselves enough to ask, But why maintain this charade?" "Honestly," Dalton replied, leaning back in his chair, "it started as a precaution. Then it became funny. Then it turned into an office-wide game. We have a whiteboard in the break room where we track the most ridiculous technological explanations you've given us. Current winner? FTL travel requires synchronized yodeling in zero gravity." The alien representatives watched in stunned silence as humanity's true capabilities were revealed. Entire fleets emerged from what was once considered uninhabitable regions of space. Research stations that had been cloaked as asteroid fields were now visible, and most disturbingly, there was evidence that humans had already explored and mapped areas of the galaxy that were supposedly off-limits. "Oh, and those restricted zones?" Dalton added casually, as if reading their minds. "Great vacation spots. The resort we built in the Carina Nebula has an excellent spa. You should try the quantum massage. It really helps with those interdimensional stress knots." Speaker Blackwell slumped back in his chair, completely deflated. "So all this time, when we thought we were guiding and containing humanity, we were mostly taking notes on how not to do things," Dalton confirmed with a satisfied nod. "Though I have to admit, some of your theories about space travel were creative. Completely wrong, but creative. We actually framed the one about using interpretive dance to navigate wormholes." The final blow came when Dalton's hologram gestured, and all the advanced alien monitoring equipment in the chamber revealed itself to be running on human operating systems. A cheerful startup sound played across the room, followed by a desktop background that read, "Humans were here." "So," Dalton said, standing up from his beach chair, "we can either continue this awkward dance where you pretend to be the advanced civilization guiding us, and we pretend to be the primitive species needing guidance, or we can start fresh as equals. Your choice." He paused, then added with a wink, "But fair warning, we've got about 50 years' worth of dad jokes and memes saved up, and we're not afraid to use them." The profound silence that followed was broken only by a single voice from the back of the chamber. "Can we at least keep the quantum massage technology?" Dalton's hologram smiled. "Now you're getting it." 1 week after what galactic historians would later call the Great Human Plot Twist, the council chamber had been completely renovated. Gone were the stuffy ceremonial pods, replaced by comfortable Earth-style furniture. Several alien representatives had discovered the joy of recliners and were now refusing to give them up. Admiral Dalton sat across from Speaker Blackwell, both enjoying cups of genuine Earth coffee. Blackwell, now twitching slightly from the effects of caffeine, had discovered that his species could indeed handle coffee. All 4 of his hands were jittering uncontrollably. "So," Dalton said, breaking the silence, "we're really going to start working together now, right?" Blackwell looked down at his cup, then back up at Dalton. "Yes, I suppose we are." The comfortable silence was swiftly interrupted when Admiral Dalton casually asked, "Ready to talk about what really happened with all those crop circles back in the 20th century?" Blackwell's scales flushed a deep shade of embarrassed purple. "We were trying to communicate complex mathematical formulas," he explained, defensively. Dalton raised an eyebrow. "While you were drawing them drunk on fermented space kelp, weren't you?" he asked with a smirk. "Maybe," Lieutenant Harlow, now Earth's Minister of Explaining Human Things to Confused Aliens, chimed in from across the room as she led another one of her thorough presentations. "And this," she continued, "is why we say, that's how the cookie crumbles." Ambassador Carter interrupted with a question, his voice trembling. "Cookies? What's a cookie?" "Yes, Ambassador Carter, we know your species doesn't have cookies," Harlow replied, trying to keep a straight face. "No, it's not a conspiracy theory. But now that you mention it," her voice trailed off humorously, as if giving a nod to the absurdity of the moment. Across the galaxy, the various species were adjusting to this startling new reality, some with confusion, others with resignation. The Valkath Coalition had officially declared humanity too weird to deal with, and in a dramatic display, collectively went on vacation. Meanwhile, the Zelthar Confederation was still reeling from the realization that their most advanced AI had been thoroughly outclassed by something called Reddit, a human invention that essentially operated as a hive mind. "You know what the funniest part is?" Dalton mused, refilling Blackwell's coffee cup with a knowing grin. "We weren't even trying to be sneaky at first. Remember when we asked about using black holes for waste disposal? That question that nearly gave half the council nervous breakdowns?" Blackwell, looking wary, nodded. "Yes, that one it did cause quite a stir." "Yeah, well, we were actually just joking," Dalton said, waving his hand dismissively. "But when you all freaked out, we figured, why not take a deeper look? Turns out micro-black holes are amazing for powering garbage disposals. We've been using them for years now." Across the chamber, Ambassador Zara Varen was engrossed in her newfound obsession, something called dad jokes. She had become particularly adept at them, much to the dismay of passing dignitaries. "What do you call a black hole that's really far away?" she asked, her crystalline form vibrating with excitement. "A not-so-black hole?" the dignitary responded cautiously, unsure of how to proceed. Varen's pride radiated through her form. The surrounding aliens groaned or chuckled appreciatively, though some rolled their eyes. "But seriously," Blackwell leaned forward, clearly perplexed. "Why maintain this farce for so long? You could have taken over the galaxy years ago." Dalton's expression softened for a moment, his tone shifting to something more thoughtful. "Because domination was never the goal. We wanted to understand, to learn. Sure, we figured things out quicker than you all expected, but watching how different species approach problems taught us something important." "And what's that?" Blackwell asked, a hint of curiosity breaking through his disbelief. "That the galaxy is a lot more fun when everyone's in it," Dalton said, a mischievous smile creeping across his face. "Even if some of you still think synchronized yodeling is essential for space travel." The chamber's main display flickered to life, showcasing Earth's latest and perhaps most unexpected contribution to the galactic community, a massive space station designed specifically for interspecies cultural exchange. It looked oddly like a hybrid between a shopping mall and an amusement park. "We're calling it the Space Mall of America," Dalton explained proudly, complete with a zero-gravity food court, a quantum arcade, and a roller coaster that breaks several laws of physics. "Oh, and the gift shop sells t-shirts that read, 'My species visited Earth and all I got was this lousy shirt and some advanced technological knowledge.'" Ambassador Carter's eye stalks perked up. "Will there be Earth food?" "Obviously," Dalton said with mock seriousness. "We're not monsters, though after the Beetle Julian incident, we did have to tweak the pizza recipe. Apparently, melted cheese in zero gravity can become quite the dangerous projectile." As if on cue, the station's first visitors arrived, species that had once viewed humanity's unpredictability with fear. Now, they were lining up to experience it firsthand. The Andromeda shopping network had already declared Earth's food court pretzels a serious threat to galactic productivity. "By the way," Dalton added casually, "remember those human behaviors you could never explain? The ones that made you think we were primitive or irrational?" Blackwell nodded slowly. "Yes, most of them seemed illogical." "Well," Dalton said, holding up his hands in mock surrender, "most of those were just us messing with you. Except the coffee addiction. That's real. And our thing about cats. And probably TikTok. Actually, some of our weirdest behaviors might actually be genuine." The final, most humbling piece of humanity's grand revelation came in the form of a new galactic charter. The document was incredibly simple. Rule 1, don't be a jerk. Rule 2, see Rule 1. Rule 3, seriously, don't be a jerk. P.S. Synchronized yodeling is neither necessary nor helpful for space travel. As representatives from 1,000 worlds signed the charter, a new era began. Humanity's greatest accomplishment wasn't their hidden technology or secret bases, but their ability to transform what could have been a massive intergalactic conflict into the galaxy's most hilarious go-watcher moment. Somewhere, deep within a quiet sector of space, a human captain was still trying to convince an alien crew that the chicken really crossed the road just to get to the other side. The galaxy, although deeply changed, was now undeniably more entertaining. As Dalton finished his coffee, he turned to face the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds, giving them a broad smile. "So," he asked, "who's up for karaoke?" A collective groan echoed through the chamber. Some things, it turned out, were universal after all.